Released in 2015, Just Cause 3 was a true underrated masterpiece of its time. In a game that was all about blowing things up with 50 different ways to do it, what if instead we got rid of 99% of these ways and made the game significantly more slow and repetitive? Welcome to Just Cause 3, Parachute Only. So we got some rules for this run. Number one is going to be that we must liberate all of Medici, barring one exception that is out of our hands completely. Now the entire mainland is completely liberatable, if that's even a word, and the Stingray area is. However, the top island that belongs to the robot DLC, we can't get past that. It's mission locked. However, every other territory in the game must be liberated. Rule number 2 is that we cannot use any gear upgrades whatsoever at all. Anything that can remotely help us in any aspect of the game will not be used. And last but most importantly, we will never progress past the second mission of the game. This means that we will never gain access to any bombs, the wingsuit, any bonuses that you can get from Mario drops, or anything that you can get progression-wise. So now that we've got all that out of the way, we progressed past the first introductory mission. It's not like we can skip that one. We have to play that one. And immediately afterwards, we're opened up into the second mission right in front of us. But instead of doing this, unfortunately, we're going to skip it and immediately start liberating the surrounding territories. So let's get into the first region, Insula Fonte. Okay, it's really not that serious. What can I say about Insula Fonte and just the entire game in general? I mean, it mainly gets slower. Every action that you have generally gets more tedious and slow, which equates to it being more of a test of endurance to beat the game like this instead of actual challenge. Regardless, we get through the first few bases, settlements, and eventually, without much challenge, I mean, apart from transportation, that's the big thing. But apart from that, the first of 3 major regions does go down. This is the easiest, granted, but I make it sound so casual as if I wasn't grinding for hours at a time, just moving from settlement to settlement. But anyways, we now get to choose where we go next, and the sensible thing is to, of course, go across the water, but instead we're going to go to the mainland, and there's a couple reasons for this. No, never mind. There is only one reason for this, the parachute. It is way too slow to get over there with a boat. Since it's our only option, not having the wingsuit and only having the parachute, and because we're going to be taking out all of this anyways, why not just go to the mainland next, because it's right next to it. And so now that we're here, we can definitely see that this is an upgrade from the first island. But apart from being bigger, how is the second island more difficult? I don't understand. Let's compare the two real quick. The first island, Insula Fonte, has 24 civilian, towns and settlements, and then only 11 bases, which is actually a pretty reasonable number, and only 9 provinces that these are split under. And so now let's look at the second island. I mean, surely it's going to be an upgrade, but not too much of an upgrade, right? I mean, I'm expecting it to be difficult, but if anything, I think it should, Now you'd assume this would be a big problem, which of course it is, but don't worry, I have a plan. You see, back in June, I was trying to find a challenge associated to this game so that I could have an excuse to play it. I ended up going with this idea where I would beat the game before completing the prologue, aka the first 3 missions of the game. So I did just that. I beat the game, except the key difference between that run and this one is that I did the second mission and not the third. So I had unlocked the wingsuit and the infinite bombs and completed the game like that. Well, I felt like this was too easy, so I completely scrapped the idea and redid it, this time 1 mission behind where I don't have any of that fun stuff. And in that run, I learned that I should have made more use of vehicles in the game. Since I have to rely on my own stuff, no Mario drops or progression rewards, one of the key resources that I could have to use is enemy tanks and enemy planes to blow things up with. So for this run, I made use of just that, which is why our first stop in the new territory is going to be Griffin, the airbase on the east side. The idea is simple. We're going to go in, liberate Griffin, and then use whatever planes we can steal from the base to then go on bombing runs across all of the region to soften up the defenses and make it easier for us when we go back in on ground to break the rest of the defenses, liberate these settlements, and get this region done faster and more efficiently. But why say anything more when I can just show you what I mean with a bunch of explosions chained together and some loud music in the background? Once the dust was settled, all that remained was ash and whatever else I couldn't destroy from the sky. Stuff like generators and bases and interaction-based stuff like what you find in towns with the monitoring systems and such were able to survive my glorious wrath. Until I inevitably finished them off, of course. Despite still having a lot of work to do, the bombings took out a bunch of lesser outposts and softened up about everything else to varying degrees, of course. It wasn't longer before I had cleared up all of this region, minus the central command. In my previous run, I had kept it as a last sort of final boss to get past. So keeping the tradition for this run, I'm done for now. Of course I'll come back later, but now we can move on to Insula Dracon and the DLCs. Which marks us as officially halfway done. Of course it's not exactly halfway done because the island we just hit is just so much bigger than anything else that we're more like 65-75% done, but whatever. Let's move on. Now before I go further into our new island, Insula Dracon, I'd love to talk about my use of planes so far. I understand that it is cheap using planes, but I do feel bad about how easy it is sometimes, especially with things like oil rigs. The difficulty and uniqueness about an oil rig outpost is ruined when you can destroy a sea-based target without ever leaving your cockpit. For the bases and towns, at least I had to, go in and finish them up on the ground, but the only thing I can say in my defense is that I'm not Mario dropping them. I had to steal every single plane that I had to use, and I didn't necessarily use a bunch of planes. I only used like 3 And every time they would get destroyed, I would go ahead and steal another. I'm I'm acting like it's this huge dramatic thing, like this big deal. It really isn't. It's just when I'm looking back on all of these clips, and I'm really noticing that using planes saved me so much significant time, like hours, like literal hours of work, and it just makes me feel bad, you know? Like I knew what I was signing up for, yet I still used the easy way out on some of these areas, and it's kind of like a drug, you know? I didn't want to use again. I just figured I would be honest in general, because it's so easy just to blow everything up and then not include those clips and lie and say, hey, you know, look at how much work I put in. Like, I put in a lot of work, but I did have help, and that's all I'm trying to say, you know, aside from me making it sound so dramatic. And, you know, for Insula Dracon, after I crashed my first plane, I really didn't get another. I mean, it's a little over 10 kilometers from the nearest airbase, so once I crashed my first one, I just didn't bother. So let's just, you know, move on and get to the explosions. So from the last island, I forgot to mention what kind of new tools I picked up. And in general, I've actually neglected telling you my entire loadout. So let's go over that real quick. Taking the spot of my left offhand special weapon is my favorite explosive in the game, the UPU-210. So the UPU is a cluster bomb grenade launcher, essentially, that targets a large area with extremely powerful projectiles. I wasn't able to get it fully until late in the second island progression, but this is our preferred left-hand special weapon. Now our strategy kind of involves taking whatever we can find, honestly. So I've experimented with the negotiator and the rocket launcher, the fire leech, etc. But this is our preferred. If we could keep only one of those, this is what we would want. For primary, I've always preferred the Predator as my primary. I've experimented with the LMG before. The LMG's great, don't get me wrong. But because our primary is going to be our bread and butter for a lot of targets, you know, transformers, fuel tanks, a lot of easy stuff that you can just shoot to get rid of, accuracy and power is just something I value slightly more than capacity and power. But I use them both, love them both. Like I said before, it's really just like we pick up whatever we can find when we run out of ammo on one thing, so I'll just look for either the Predator or the LMG, and either one's great. Our secondary or our top will go to whatever we can just pick up. Honestly, I got the Peacebringers, somewhere in Insula Dracon I picked up the Peacebringers, which is the Sheriff pistols, and it's just my favorite secondary. It's probably not the best, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. Our bread and butter is going to be our primary and our special weapon. Then we got grenades. Grenades can be used literally anywhere. They're infinitely restockable at a weapons locker, so when coordinating an attack, we typically just use them wherever we want, restock them, use them wherever we want. It is a shame that we can't use any of the upgrades for them, the gear mods, like glass grenades or getting more of them, the 5 capacity. But whatever. It's never really going to be something that hinders us. What's going to hinder us is our explosive power, if anything, with our special. Our special runs out of ammo really quickly, which is I 100% get now why people would want the negotiator, for example. Something with a little more capacity to it. Especially with the UPU being hard to restock, not a lot of places in Insula Dracon or our DLCs have that. So we gotta kind of use it sparingly, but nevertheless, this is the loadout I found most effective. And in the background of that whole long explanation, we're actually almost done with Corda Dracon. Now we just have the Central Command to get rid of. And after this region, we then go into the DLCs. Now I'll talk about them more in a second, but as for Corda Dracon, the Central Command doesn't go down that hard. It's just like the others, really. And that marks us 3 out of 4 done. And so now we can finally move on to the DLC part of this. So there are 3 main DLCs in the game, the first of which is in the Stingray area, as shown. The second, as you can probably see in this insanely detailed and high quality photo, is up north on that island, and the third isn't even visible yet until we do a little more of the story. The 3 DLCs are the Bavarium Sea Heist, the Mechland Assault, and the third is the Sky Fortress. For the Sky Fortress itself, it won't even be on the map until we complete the 3rd mission. So that one's off the table immediately. We'll leave the Bavarium Sea Heist for last, and instead we'll talk about the Mechland Assault, which is the North Island. Mechland Assault isn't accessible until the 6th mission is finished. And as for the Stingray area, which is the Bavarium Sea Heist, that one's not accessible until the 11th mission. So now we're faced with 2 options. We can just not do the DLCs, or we can try to go to the islands and see if we can just start liberating things. Well, I actually tried this on my last run when I was beating the game before the 3rd mission. I went to the North Island, part of the mechanical DLC, and it would not let me in. It immediately pushed back my plane, pushed me back, unable to completely get in. I tried everything, and the North Island is completely inaccessible. So now the North Island is completely inaccessible. The Sky Fortress isn't even there. So now our last hope is the Stingray area. And as much as I'd like to just not do any of them and just finish this up real nice and clean by going to Falco, the central command in this 2nd island, the Stingray area actually lets you completely liberate it. As much as I'd like to ignore it, we're gonna do it. And with that, there was only one thing left to do. Now I'm going to stop him right there because I don't relate to him anymore, and I don't listen to his cries for help. Because as of now, I am free. Medici is free. And as I look out onto the horizon, that's all I see and care about. All of these lands are now ours, and it's time to finally let go. But in all actuality, that's it. that's the end. I'm going to include a full like minute and a half uncut video that's just proving all of my stats, that I really did do this. And yeah, that's it.
Your grapplers did. Outdated. Come see me for upgrade.